So I want to talk to you a little bit today about your ability to buy firearms and ammunition and the fact that there are many people trying to restrict that ability. Specifically, I want to talk about H.R. 686 in the House. The bill that was introduced in the House, of course, by the anti-gunners on the left that now control the House. Seems like they're introducing something new every single day, and hopefully you've been in constant contact with your representatives every time they do introduce something new, so you should probably be on a first-name basis with them by now, because this stuff is just getting introduced hand over fist at this point. But I want to use H.R. 686 as an example, not necessarily as the point of this video, but as a good example of what we're talking about and what we could be facing potentially when it comes to the federal government coming and restricting the ability to buy the guns and ammunition that you want to buy to the level that we've become accustomed to in today's day and age. Now, H.R. 686 is called the Stop Online Gun Sales Act, I believe that's what it's called. And it does a lot of stuff in it, and it's very overreaching in my opinion. A lot of the stuff in it, because it is a federal bill, a federal law that they're trying to propose here, would get struck down the first time somebody challenged it in court, like forcing somebody to buy something face-to-face is essentially what it wants to do. If you're going to buy ammunition, you have to be there in person, in front of the person or business you're buying ammunition from. And then, of course, they'd love to do background checks on ammunition and all this other stuff. Things that I'm fairly certain if this went to a federal court or even the Supreme Court would get struck down, unlike, unfortunately, some states that are able to get away with this stuff, thanks to the Supreme Court, who said that the states have more rights to restrict your rights than the federal government does. But at its core, there's one very scary thing about H.R. 686 that unfortunately, at this point, there's not a whole lot we can do about. And that is this idea that due to the Commerce Clause, which has, according to the Supreme Court, been ruled to be constitutional, the federal government controls commerce across state lines. And you buying ammunition or buying firearms across state lines from Classic Firearms or Palmetto State Armory or Ames Surplus or JG Sales or Bud's Gun Shop or whoever it is, that is interstate commerce. And with the stroke of a pen, somebody in the government can come along and restrict your ability to buy these types of products and lower your ability to be able to get what you want. Now look, I understand that with the internet and everything that's going on out there, that it's become so easy to buy guns and ammo online. I do it all the time. But one thing we can't forget to do, in addition to being in constant contact with our representatives when things like this pop up, but we cannot forget about our local gun shops. We cannot forget about them. And I'm not talking about Academy or Cabela's or Bass Pro. Okay, these larger companies would still be doing okay even if they stopped selling firearms, okay, especially places like Academy. Now, not all of them would do okay. You look at what happened to Dick's. They've obviously been suffering, but it's more due to their attitude with why they decided to stop selling firearms, and less the actual not selling of those firearms, seeing as how they had cut ties with selling anything but shotguns and bolt actions a long time ago, and it didn't affect their sales until they became vocally anti-gun. So these larger businesses could turn on us in an instant, and it wouldn't necessarily be out of spite or hate for the Second Amendment. Maybe they just decide that the gun business isn't a great business to be in for profit reasons, okay? But your local gun shops, they're the ones we need to focus on. They're the ones that we need to work on doing more business with. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else with buying way too much online and not enough from my local gun shops. And I'm going to try and turn that around. Because with the Commerce Clause, if somebody decided to come along and say, no more buying firearms across state lines, no more buying ammunition across state lines, you'd be stuck to buying only what's within your state lines. And for some people, maybe that's not a big deal. For others, maybe it is a very big deal. Maybe you don't live in the same state as Bud's Gun Shop or Palmetto State Armory. Maybe there's not a lot going on in your state and you've relied so heavily on getting your firearms and your ammunition from businesses that are not in your state. This is why we need to build up our local gun shops. This is why we need to do everything we can to try and spend our money there. If a gun costs you $50 extra at a gun shop as opposed to buying it from Bud's Gun Shop or Palmetto State Armory, and they have it, and it's there, and it's in stock, buy it from your local gun shop. Spend the extra $50. Now I understand not everything is going to be available at your local gun shop. And those are those times where you got to source that stuff out where you can. But unfortunately, I think we've gotten far too dependent on these online gun businesses that have in part helped to run other local gun businesses out of business. There are now fewer local gun shops in any given area in this country, all across the country, than there were before the proliferation of online gun sales. And those things have been great, and they've been cheap, and they've made it very available and simple and easy to buy what you want. But remember, there are people out there, people in our government, people in our country who want to restrict your rights in every single way they can when it comes to your Second Amendment rights and your ability to keep and bear arms, to buy firearms, to buy ammunition. If we don't do something now to try and safeguard ourselves against that, be a prepper a little bit, as it were, right? Prep. Build up your local gun shop. So if that day ever comes when somebody signs a bill that says due to the Interstate Commerce Clause you can no longer buy guns or ammunition online, at least you'll still have someplace you can go.